The True Nature of Time. Introduction. We have been conditioned to believe that time is a straight line, an unstoppable current carrying us forward. We wake up, we live, we grow older, and we die, always moving forward, never backward. We remember the past, experience the present, and await the future. But what if all of this was merely an illusion? What if time doesn't flow, but instead stands still, waiting for us to shift our awareness from one moment to another? Dolores Cannon, a trailblazing pioneer in hypnosis and past life regression, boldly affirmed this hypothesis. Through thousands of deep trance sessions, her clients described astonishing experiences of existing in multiple timelines, living past and future lives simultaneously, and even accessing knowledge from higher dimensions. They revealed something shocking. Time is not linear. It is an illusion, a construct of human perception. Past, present, and future are happening all at once. We only experience them as separate because of the way our consciousness is tuned. Everything you've been taught about time is about to be questioned. You've always believed time moves in a straight line, past, present, future, one moment following another like clockwork. But what if that's not the truth? Think about it. Have you ever experienced déjà vu, that strange sensation of reliving a moment before it happens? Have you ever felt time stretch and slow, as if the world around you moved in slow motion or vanish in an instant, leaving you wondering where the hours went? And what about those dreams, the ones so vivid, so real that days, weeks, or even years later, they unfold before your eyes exactly as you saw them? Could these be mere coincidences? Or are they glimpses of something deeper? Since childhood, we've been taught that time is like a river, flowing in only one direction from the past to the future. But if that were true, why does time feel so different, depending on our emotions, our focus, or even our state of mind? A joyful moment passes in an instant, while a painful experience stretches into eternity. Some dreams feel like hours, yet happen in seconds. If time were truly fixed, this wouldn't be possible. The answer is simple. Time is perception. Imagine a goldfish in a bowl. Its world is small, limited to the circles it swims, bound by invisible walls. It assumes the water surrounding it is all that exists. But from the outside, we see the bigger picture. The bowl is only a fragment of a much larger reality. Now, what if we are like the fish? What if time is just our fishbowl? An illusion we've been trained to accept simply because we don't know how to see beyond it. Throughout history, cracks have appeared in the illusion of time. Einstein's theory of relativity shattered the idea that time is absolute, proving it can speed up or slow down depending on gravity and motion. Quantum experiments reveal that particles can exist in two places at once, suggesting past and future may be interchangeable. Near-death experiences describe life flashing before one's eyes, not as a memory, but as if all moments exist simultaneously. But perhaps the most fascinating clues come from hypnosis and past life regression. Dolores Cannon's clients didn't just recall past lives. Some remembered future ones. They spoke of lifetimes on other planets, of existing in a reality where time was fluid and consciousness could move freely between moments. If time were truly linear, how could this be possible? The truth is that time is not something we are trapped in. It is something we move through. Imagine a vast library filled with infinite books, each one a different timeline, a different experience of reality. Most people believe they can only read one book at a time, moving from page to page in order. But what if you could step back? What if you could see the entire library at once? What if you could choose any book, any chapter, any moment, at will? That is how time really works. Past, present, and future are not separate. They exist at once like pages in a book. We are simply tuned to one chapter at a time. But the moment we shift our focus, we access another page, another reality, another time. This audiobook is a journey beyond the illusion of time. You will discover that your past and future lives are not distant memories or events waiting to happen. They are happening now. You will see how every choice you make branches into new timelines, creating infinite versions of reality. You will learn that your mind is far more powerful than you've been led to believe, capable of accessing past and future moments as easily as recalling a dream. But most importantly, you will come to understand that you are not a prisoner of time. You are the traveler, you are the creator, and time is simply waiting for you to realize its true nature. So now, take a deep breath, open your mind, and prepare to journey beyond the illusion of time. Chapter 1. What is time really? Imagine standing on the shore of an infinite ocean. Waves roll in, one after another. You assume they come in sequence, but what if, from above, you could see that all waves exist at once, moving together in perfect harmony? That is time. We experience time as a straight line, always moving forward. Seconds turn into minutes, minutes into hours. Yesterday becomes today, today becomes tomorrow. We rarely question it because we are immersed in it, much like fish in water unaware that we are even swimming. But what if this is just a trick of our perception? What if time isn't flowing at all but instead exists all at once, and we are simply tuning in to one moment at a time? For centuries, civilizations have tried to understand time, measuring its passing with the movements of the sun, the phases of the moon, and ticking hands of a clock. Yet, no matter how precise our instruments become, time remains an enigma. Science teaches that time is a fundamental aspect of reality, but modern physics suggests otherwise. Einstein's theory of relativity shattered the idea that time is fixed. He proved that time stretches, slows, and bends depending on gravity and motion. At the speed of light, time itself ceases to exist. From a photon's perspective, there is no past or future, only an endless, eternal now. If time is truly something that can bend, stretch, or stop altogether, then what is it really? The answer lies not in the hands of a clock, but in the nature of consciousness itself. Dolores Cannon's hypnosis subjects describe an incredible revelation. Time is not a straight road we travel, but a vast landscape where all moments exist simultaneously. The past, present, and future are not separate events, but different layers of reality, all coexisting at once. When we think of the past, we are not recalling a distant memory. We are actually tuning in to another version of reality that still exists. When we imagine the future, we are not predicting something that has yet to happen. We are glimpsing another reality that is unfolding in parallel to this one. Imagine a library filled with an infinite number of books, each containing a different version of your life. Most people believe they are only allowed to read one book at a time, flipping through the pages in order, from beginning to end. But what if that's not true? What if, at any moment, you could reach out and pick up another book entirely? What if the version of reality you are experiencing right now is simply one story among countless others, and you have the power to choose which story you want to live? The idea of simultaneous time challenges everything we think we know. If the future already exists, does that mean destiny is fixed? If the past is still happening, does that mean it can be changed? The answer to both questions is yes and no. The future is not set in stone because infinite versions of the future exist. The past is not gone because it continues to unfold in a different layer of reality. This is why people experience déjà vu, because for a brief moment, their consciousness aligns with another version of reality they have already lived. This is why some people have premonitions, because they are momentarily tuning in to a future that already exists. This is why hypnosis subjects under Dolores Cannon's deep trance regression not only recall past lives, but also describe future ones, because time does not move forward and backward. It simply is. If time is truly a vast, multi-dimensional field rather than a one-way street, then what does that mean for our daily lives? It means that everything we have been taught about time is only part of the picture. It means that our thoughts, our emotions, and our choices have far more power than we realize because they determine which version of time we experience. Every decision we make is like stepping onto a different path in the landscape of time. There is not just one version of reality. There are countless versions, all existing at once, each leading to different possibilities. This could explain why some people feel as though they have jumped into a new reality, where small details of their life seem slightly different. It could explain why memories sometimes shift and why groups of people remember events differently in what has become known as the Mandela effect. Perhaps these are not just tricks of the mind, but actual shifts in consciousness between different versions of time. If reality is a field of infinite possibilities, then changing our lives is not about waiting for time to pass. It is about tuning into a different version of reality that already exists. The power to shift timelines is not reserved for mystics or quantum physicists. It is something we all do, whether we realize it or not. Every choice, every thought, every belief we hold acts as a tuning fork, aligning us with one version of reality or another. The key is awareness. Once we understand that time is fluid, we can begin to use it in ways we never imagined. This understanding also leads to an even greater question. If time is something we move through, rather than something that moves around us, then what is the force that moves us? The answer is consciousness itself. Our awareness is not bound by time. It is the traveler, the observer, the force that navigates the infinite landscape of existence. So what happens when we learn to consciously direct our awareness? Can we visit the past and change events? Can we glimpse the future and alter its course? Can we step beyond time altogether and experience reality as it truly is? In the next chapter, we will explore what happens when we begin to free ourselves from the illusion of linear time. We will see how consciousness has the power to access past and future events, and how those who have touched the edges of time, through hypnosis, dreams, or altered states, describe a reality far beyond what we have been taught. If time is an illusion, then what is real? That is the question we must now explore. Chapter 2. Time as a simultaneous reality. What if your past lives aren't in the past at all? What if you are living them right now in another layer of reality? We have been taught that time is a sequence, a story unfolding moment by moment, each event pushing the next forward in a never-ending chain. But what if this is an illusion? What if time is not a series of events occurring one after the other, but rather a vast field where everything exists at once? The idea of time as simultaneous may seem impossible at first. After all, how could something from the past still be happening? How could the future already exist? But once we step beyond the limits of human perception, the true nature of time begins to reveal itself. Dolores Cannon's hypnosis subjects often described past lives with stunning clarity, reliving experiences from centuries ago as if they were happening in the present moment. Yet, some of these same subjects also described future lives, scenes from distant centuries where they found themselves in bodies that had not yet been born, living in civilizations that do not yet exist. If these experiences were merely memories, how could someone recall something that hasn't happened yet? And if time is truly linear, why do so many people in deep hypnosis describe events unfolding as if they are happening right now? To understand this, imagine a vast, multi-story building. Each floor represents a different time period, a different chapter of existence. Most people believe they are confined to only one floor at a time. They live their lives thinking they are trapped on a single level, with no access to what came before or what will come next. But what if the floors are not truly separate? What if there is no staircase because there is no need to climb? Because all the floors exist together in the same moment. Imagine entering an elevator and discovering that you can access all floors simultaneously. A prior existence could be visited and experienced as a present reality rather than a dim remembrance. You might travel into the future and find yourself standing in a moment that hasn't yet come to pass from your current point of view. Your conviction that time must be traversed rather than being viewed as a totality is the only thing preventing you from accessing these various planes of existence. When people experience déjà vu, they are not recalling a past event. They are momentarily stepping into a parallel version of reality where that moment has already happened. When someone has a premonition, they are not predicting the future. They are tuning into a timeline that already exists. When a person remembers a past life, they are not remembering in the way we normally think of memory. Instead, they are accessing a different layer of reality where they are still living that life in real time. If this is true, then it means the future is not something we are moving toward. The future is already here, existing alongside this present moment, waiting for us to step into it. But if the future already exists, does that mean our destiny is set? Do we have any control over what happens next? The answer is both yes and no. If time is simultaneous, then every possible future already exists. Each choice we make shifts us into a different version of reality, aligning us with a different outcome. The future is not fixed because there are infinite futures. Many of Dolores Cannon's subjects described an awareness of multiple versions of themselves, living out different possibilities in parallel realities. One subject, under deep hypnosis, saw himself standing at a crossroads, but instead of choosing one path, he saw himself splitting into two versions, each following a different outcome. In one reality, he turned left. In another, he turned right. Both versions of him continued to exist, unaware of each other, yet equally real. This suggests that every choice we make does not erase the alternatives, but rather sends us into the version of reality that aligns with the decision we have made. What does this mean for the way we live our lives? It means that every moment is an opportunity to shift into a new timeline. It means that if you want a different future, you must begin to align yourself with the version of reality where that future already exists. If you want success, you must embody the energy of someone who is successful. If you want healing, you must step into the version of yourself that is already healed. The key is not to create a new reality, but to recognize that it is already there, waiting for you to tune into it. This also explains why some people experience unexplained changes in their environment, why they wake up one day to discover that a memory no longer corresponds with the reality they are experiencing, or that a familiar object has altered. These little differences might not be coincidences. Rather, they might be proof that they have inadvertently entered an alternate timeline in which specific events have transpired differently. The Mandela effect, so named because of the odd phenomena whereby vast crowds of people recall Nelson Mandela's death in jail in the 1980s, even though history now shows that he was freed and lived until 2013, has been used to describe this phenomenon. How could so many people remember a distinct version of events if time were fixed and unalterable? These anomalies suggest that time is not as stable as we have been led to believe. Reality is fluid, shifting in response to the choices we make and the energies with which we align. The version of the world you experience is not the only version that exists. It is simply the one that matches your current frequency. This is why people who undergo deep personal transformation often feel as though their entire world has changed, because in a very real way it has. If we are truly living in a simultaneous universe, then time travel is not about moving through time. It is about moving through consciousness. The past is accessible because it still exists. The future can be seen because it is already happening. Those who have learned to expand their awareness can tap into these different layers of time, stepping beyond the illusion of linear progression and into a reality where all things are possible. So what happens when we truly embrace this knowledge? If all timelines exist at once, can we consciously choose which version of reality we experience? If we can tune into the past or the future, can we also rewrite it? And if time itself is nothing more than a perception, what happens when we stop perceiving it as a limitation? In the next chapter, we will explore the mechanics of shifting between realities, not as a theoretical concept, but as a practical ability. We will dive deeper into what it means to navigate time, not as something we are bound by, but as something we can move through freely. If all versions of reality exist, then the life you desire is not something you must create. It is something you must choose. Dolores Cannon's work revealed that under deep hypnosis, people could access memories that did not belong to their current lifetime. But more astonishingly, some subjects described lives that had not yet happened, futures that seemed as vivid and real as any past experience. These were not abstract visions or symbolic dreams. They were tangible, detailed, lived realities, playing out just as surely as their present existence. If time were truly linear, how could this be possible? The answer lies in understanding that all moments exist at once. The past and future are not distant events, but layers of reality occurring simultaneously, separated only by perception. Imagine sitting in front of an old radio, turning the dial to different stations. Each station exists at the same time, broadcasting its signal, but you only hear the one you are tuned into. The past is one frequency. The future is another. You are simply tuned to the present moment, unaware that the others are just as real, just as active. But what if you could change the dial? What if, through focus and intent, you could access a memory from the distant past or a glimpse of the future? This is precisely what people do when they experience spontaneous past life memories. They are not recalling the past in the way we remember childhood events. Instead, they are tuning into a parallel version of themselves, still living out that existence in another layer of time. In deep regression, some people experience this so vividly that they can smell the air, feel the fabric of their clothing, and sense the emotions of that other self as if they are there in real time. And perhaps in a way they are. But if we can access the past, does that mean the past can change? If all moments exist at once, then altering our perception of a past event might not just change how we remember it, it might change the event itself. Some spiritual teachings suggest that when we heal old traumas or shift our emotional response to something in the past, we are not just rewriting our memory, but literally altering that timeline. It is as if the past is fluid, adapting to our present awareness of it. The same is true for the future. Many people have had precognitive dreams, visions of events that later unfolded exactly as they saw them. Some dismiss these experiences as coincidences, but what if they are not predictions at all? What if they are simply moments of awareness in which the mind briefly tunes into another timeline, catching a glimpse of something that already exists? The future is not something we wait for. It is something we create with every thought, every choice, and every shift in awareness. Some of Dolores Cannon's hypnosis subjects described futures where humanity had evolved beyond its current limitations, living in harmony with the universe in ways we can barely comprehend. Others saw darker possibilities, timelines where destruction and chaos had taken hold. When asked why they were seeing such different futures, the answer was always the same. The future is not fixed. It branches out in infinite directions, and the version we experience depends entirely on where we place our focus. If this is true, then we have far more power than we realize. If the future already exists in multiple forms, then we are not helpless travelers moving toward a predetermined fate. We are active participants, shifting between timelines with every belief we hold, every emotion we cultivate, and every decision we make. If we want to access a future where we are happy, successful, or enlightened, then we must align ourselves with the version of reality where that outcome already exists. Some people access future timelines intentionally, through meditation, hypnosis, or altered states of consciousness. Others experience it spontaneously, in flashes of insight or moments of deep intuition. But the ability to perceive beyond the present moment is not a rare gift reserved for the few. It is something we all possess. We have simply forgotten how to use it. There are stories of individuals who have suddenly found themselves in a different time, as if they had momentarily stepped into another era. A man walking through an old town suddenly sees the streets as they were 100 years ago. A woman visiting a historic site finds herself surrounded by people in period clothing, only to blink and see them vanish. These occurrences are often dismissed as hallucinations or tricks of the mind. But what if they are real? What if, for a brief moment, these individuals simply tuned into another layer of time? If the past and future are accessible, then we must ask, what does this mean for who we are? If a version of us is still living in the past and another version is already living in the future, then our identity is not confined to a single point in time. We are multidimensional beings, existing across countless timelines, simultaneously connected to every version of ourselves. When we remember a past life, we are not looking backward. We are looking sideways into another expression of who we are. Time will no longer be able to dominate us if we accept this notion. It turns into something we can investigate and intentionally navigate. We have control over the future and are not helpless against the past. We can enter whatever form of reality that we want. We will discover how we may intentionally manage these changes as we proceed on our trip. What decides which timeline we encounter, if there are all of them? How can we make ourselves more compatible with the future we want? Can we cure our former selves if the past is continuously happening? This would alter not just our history, but also the present we live in today. We shall look at how to control our timeline in the upcoming chapter, transcending fate and entering the boundless possibilities of life. One issue remains: which option will you select if all possibilities are real? Chapter 5. Bending and Manipulating Time. What if time is not something you are trapped in, but something you can shape? What if the way you perceive time determines the way it unfolds? For centuries, time has been seen as an unstoppable force, something outside of our control. We believe it moves at a fixed pace, dragging us forward with no way to slow it down, speed it up, or change its course. But what if time is not rigid at all? What if it bends, shifts, and stretches based on our perception, our emotions, and even our beliefs? Some moments seem to fly by in an instant, while others stretch into eternity. A child lost in play feels as if hours pass in the blink of an eye, while a person in distress experiences every second as heavy and endless. Time, it seems, is not measured by clocks alone. It is shaped by consciousness itself. If our awareness influences the way we experience time, then what happens when we learn to use that awareness intentionally? Throughout history, mystics and spiritual masters have hinted at the ability to manipulate time. Some described moments of deep meditation where time seemed to stop altogether, while others spoke of expanding time to accomplish tasks that should have taken much longer. Athletes in moments of peak performance describe a state where time slows, allowing them to react with superhuman precision. People facing life-threatening situations often recall experiencing time dilation, where seconds stretch out and every detail becomes crystal clear. These experiences suggest that time is not a rigid external force, but something deeply intertwined with our state of being. If we can unconsciously slow time during intense moments, could we also do it intentionally? If time speeds up when we are lost in joy, could we consciously expand it to make the most of every moment? Dolores Cannon's hypnosis subjects often described time as fluid, something that could be moved through rather than something that moves past us. Some spoke of advanced civilizations that had mastered the art of bending time, not through technology, but through consciousness itself. To them, time was not a sequence but a tool, one that could be adjusted, stretched, or compressed at will. If time is truly flexible, then it means we are not powerless against it. We can shape it. We can slow it when we need more of it. We can accelerate it when we wish to move beyond something. We can step out of old timelines and into new ones. And the key to all of this lies in how we direct our attention. One of the most powerful ways to bend time is through focused awareness. Have you ever noticed that when you are deeply engaged in something you love, time seems to dissolve? Hours can pass in what feels like minutes. This is because when we are fully present, we are no longer measuring time. We are simply existing in the flow of now, and in that state, time becomes secondary. The opposite is also true. When we focus too much on time, on watching the clock, on worrying about the future, on counting the minutes left in the day, time seems to slow down in the most frustrating way. This is why people who are anxious often feel as though time is dragging. They are constantly measuring it, and in doing so, they create the experience of it moving more slowly. This suggests that our relationship with time is not fixed, it is responsive. It changes based on where we place our awareness. If we stop measuring time, if we stop worrying about how much or how little we have, we may find that it moves in harmony with us. Some people have reported extreme cases of time bending, where reality itself seemed to shift. There are stories of individuals who ran late for an important meeting, only to find that when they arrived, the clock showed they were right on time. Others recall moments when they should have missed a flight, yet somehow arrived at the gate at the exact perfect moment, as if time had adjusted itself to accommodate them. These occurrences, though rare, suggest that reality is more flexible than we think. But if time can be stretched and compressed, does that mean we can move beyond it altogether? Some spiritual teachings suggest that when we reach a certain level of awareness, We no longer experience time in the way we once did. Instead of being bound by it, we become aware of all moments at once. Mystics describe states of consciousness where past, present, and future collapse into a single moment of infinite possibility. In these states, time does not control us. We move through it as freely as we move through space. Dolores Cannon's research uncovered accounts of individuals who had reached such levels of awareness. Under deep hypnosis, some subjects described existing outside of time, where they could view all their lives at once, like a vast tapestry. From this vantage point, they could shift their awareness to any moment, stepping into different points in time with complete ease. If such a state is possible, then it suggests that time is not something that happens to us, it is something we navigate. So how can we begin to experiment with bending time in our own lives? The first step is to become aware of how you experience time. Notice when it feels slow, when it feels fast, and when it seems to expand or contract. Observe how your emotions, thoughts, and focus influence the way time moves. Once you become aware of this, you can begin to play with it. The next time you feel rushed, try stepping into a deep state of presence, as if time does not exist. You may find that things begin to align perfectly, as if reality itself adjusts to your inner state. The next time you wish to savor a moment, immerse yourself so fully in the experience that time slows to meet you. If time is truly flexible, then you are not at its mercy. You are its creator. You can stretch it, compress it, step beyond it. And if you can do this, then what else might be possible? If we are truly capable of shaping time, then we must ask, what happens when we begin to step beyond time altogether? In the next chapter, we will explore what lies beyond time itself. If we are not bound by it, then who are we? If time is an illusion, then what is reality? Chapter 6. The Evolution of Time Perception. What if time is changing? What if the way we experience time is not fixed, but evolving along with human consciousness? Something strange has been happening. People everywhere have started to notice that time feels different. Days seem to be speeding up. Weeks vanish in the blink of an eye. Years pass faster than ever before. Many feel as though there are fewer hours in the day, as if time itself is collapsing inward. Others describe moments where time seems to freeze, where they feel suspended between seconds, disconnected from the usual rhythm of existence. This is not just imagination. Something fundamental about the way we experience time is shifting. Dolores Cannon's work revealed that time is not a constant. It bends, expands, and contracts based on consciousness. But more than that, it evolves. Just as humanity itself is in a process of awakening, our perception of time is undergoing a transformation. The way we once measured and understood time is no longer holding steady. We are stepping into something new. In ancient civilizations, time was understood differently. The Mayans, Egyptians, and other advanced cultures did not view time as a straight line. They saw it as cycles, spirals, infinite patterns moving in and out of existence. They believed that human consciousness moved through phases of awakening, each cycle bringing a new understanding of reality. They built calendars not to measure time in the way we do today, but to track shifts in human awareness. And now, many believe we are at the threshold of one of the greatest shifts yet. Time is no longer behaving as it once did, because we are no longer perceiving it as we once did. Our awareness is expanding, and with it, our relationship with time is changing. Some people are already living outside of traditional time. Have you ever had a day where you accomplished far more than should have been possible in the given hours, or a moment where time stretched endlessly, giving you space to experience something profound? These are not coincidences. They are glimpses of a new way of existing. In Dolores Cannon's hypnosis sessions, many individuals spoke of a future where time would no longer function as it does now. They described a world where people would experience time fluidly, stepping in and out of different moments at will. They spoke of a shift in which time would be perceived more like space, something to move through, rather than something that moves past us. If these visions are correct, then what we are experiencing now is not time breaking down. It is time evolving into something greater. This also explains why some people are experiencing spontaneous shifts in their reality. Many are waking up one day to find that their memories no longer match the present world. Some remember past events differently from those around them. Others find that objects, names, and historical details have subtly changed. These occurrences, often referred to as the Mandela effect, are not just tricks of the mind. They are signs that we are no longer anchored to a single version of time. If time is evolving, then we must evolve with it. Those who resist the changes may feel increasingly disconnected, lost in a world that no longer follows the rules they were taught. Those who embrace the shifts, however, will find themselves moving with greater ease, flowing into new experiences without struggle. The key is to stop clinging to time as something fixed and instead begin to see it as something alive, something responsive to consciousness itself. As we move forward, more people will begin to experience time differently. More moments of timelessness, more strange synchronicities, more instances where reality bends in unexpected ways. These are signs that the old way of measuring time is fading and a new way of being is emerging. If time is evolving, then what does that mean for the future? If the way we experience time now is just a phase, then what comes next? The answer may lie in what many spiritual traditions have long taught, that the ultimate destination is a state where time no longer exists at all. In the next chapter, we will explore what it means to step beyond time entirely. If time is just a construct, then what is reality beyond it? If we are not bound by past, present, or future, then who are we? Chapter 7. Living Beyond Time. What if time is only a limitation because we believe in it? What if the moment you stop seeing yourself as bound by time, you become free of it? For most of human history, time has been a cage, an invisible structure dictating our days, our lives, our very existence. We are born into it, conditioned to obey its rules, believing that every moment is fleeting, that we are powerless against its passage. But what if time was never meant to control us? What if we were always meant to move beyond it? Throughout history, spiritual masters, mystics, and visionaries have spoken of a state where time no longer exists. They describe moments of pure presence, where past and future dissolve, where all things exist at once. In these moments there is no urgency, no regret, no fear of what is to come. There is only awareness, an expansive sense of being that is untouched by time's illusion. Many who have had near-death experiences report something similar. They speak of stepping into a space where time does not flow, where they are able to view their entire existence all at once. Every moment they have ever lived, every choice they had ever made, spread before them like a vast landscape. There is no sense of movement, only a deep, profound understanding that everything is happening simultaneously. Dolores Cannon's research uncovered countless accounts of individuals who, under deep hypnosis, described a reality beyond time. Some spoke of lives in other dimensions, where time functioned completely differently, where events unfolded in a way that could not be measured or counted. Others recalled existing in a state where time was irrelevant, where they could shift between moments at will, stepping into different experiences without limitation. These subjects were not simply describing dreams or abstract visions. They were recalling memories of what it is like to live outside of time. If this is possible, then what does it mean for us? Are we truly trapped in time, or is the perception of time something we can unlearn? Some people have already begun to experience what it means to live beyond time. Have you ever had a moment where time seemed to disappear, where you lost yourself completely in an experience, unaware of hours passing, unaware even of yourself as a person moving through time? These moments, whether they happen during meditation, deep creative work, or moments of pure joy, are glimpses of what it means to step outside of time's illusion. The truth is, we are only bound by time because we believe we are. The more we focus on time, the more we reinforce its control over us. The more we let go of time, the more it begins to dissolve. This is why people who stop obsessing over age often seem to remain youthful, while those who constantly worry about getting older seem to accelerate the process. This is why those who surrender to the present moment often find themselves in perfect flow, where things unfold effortlessly, and where they always seem to have enough time for everything they need to do. If time is a construct of the mind, then freeing ourselves from time begins with shifting our perception. The first step is to stop seeing time as something external, something outside of us. Instead, see time as something that exists within consciousness, something that can be stretched, bent, or even stepped out of entirely. The second step is to cultivate presence. The more deeply you anchor yourself in the now, the less control time has over you. When you fully embrace the present, the past and future become irrelevant. You no longer dwell in regrets or anxieties, and in doing so, you begin to transcend time's illusion. The third step is to realize that if all time exists at once, then you are already connected to every version of yourself, past, present, and future. You do not have to wait for time to pass in order to become who you want to be. The version of you that has already achieved everything you desire is real. The moment you align with that reality, time no longer stands in the way. As humanity continues to awaken, more and more people will begin to experience time differently. Some will find themselves stepping into alternate realities without understanding why. Others will begin receiving knowledge from their future selves, as if time has folded in on itself. And eventually, many will step beyond time entirely, realizing that it was never truly real to begin with. So what happens when you let go of time completely? What happens when you no longer see yourself as someone bound by time, but as a consciousness that moves freely through it? The answer is simple. You become limitless. Epilogue. Stepping beyond time. Time was never your master. It was never something outside of you, something pulling you forward, something slipping away. It was always an illusion, a construct, a story you were taught to believe. And now, you see beyond it. You have journeyed through the illusion of time, peeling back the layers of what you once thought was real. You have seen that time is not a force that moves you forward, but a landscape that exists all at once. You have glimpsed the truth that past, present, and future are not separate but intertwined. You have begun to understand that you are not bound by time. You are the traveler, the observer, the creator of your own reality. So now, a question remains. What will you do with this knowledge? If time is fluid, then you are never trapped. If all realities exist, then you are never limited. If every possibility is real, then the future is not something you wait for. It is something you step into. From this moment forward, you no longer need to think of time as something you are racing against, something you are losing, or something that defines who you are. Instead, you can begin to see time as something you can move through with intention, something that bends to your awareness, something that is always within your control. Imagine waking up tomorrow and no longer feeling the weight of time. Imagine stepping into each day as if time were an open space, a field of infinite potential, rather than a ticking clock. Imagine no longer fearing the future because you know that it already exists in a version that you can align with. Imagine releasing the past, not because it is gone, but because it is still unfolding in another layer of reality, separate from the version of you that stands here now. Time is not what you thought it was, and neither are you. You are not a being trapped in a fleeting existence, watching the seconds slip through your fingers. You are eternal. You are multidimensional. You are consciousness, stepping through infinite moments, weaving through infinite possibilities, expanding beyond the very concept of time itself. So, take a deep breath and remember this. You were never meant to be a prisoner of time. You were meant to be free. Step forward now, not into the future, not into the past, but into the infinite now, because that is where you have always been.